Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing great today. I have in front of me a book for you. It's called Green Angel, and it's by Alice Hoffman. It's one of my favorite books, and I hope you will enjoy me reading it. Part 1, Heart. This is how it happened. I once believed that life was a gift. I thought that whatever I wanted I would someday possess. Is that greed or only youth? Is it hope or stupidity? As far as I was concerned, the future was a book I could write to suit myself, chapter after chapter of good fortune. All was right with the world, and my place in it was assured, or so I thought then. I had no idea that all stories unfold like white flowers, petal by petal, each in its own time and season, dependent on circumstance and fate. The future is something no one can foretell. My family had always lived on the ridge top above the village in a county where days were sunny and warm. At twilight, dusk wove across the meadows like a dream of the next day to come. People said we were blessed, and maybe that was true. My father was honest and strong. My mother collected blue jay feathers, preferring them to her pearls. My little sister Aurora was as wild as she was beautiful. Aurora could climb a tree in the blink of an eye. She could disappear in the woods like moonlight. She could dance for hours and never tire. I was the least among them. Nothing special, just a girl. I was a moody, dark weed. Still, they called me Green because of my talents in the garden. My mother was the one who taught me everything I knew. To bury old boots beneath peach trees to ensure they bear the sweetest fruit. To douse roses with vinegar water to chase away beetles. To plant when the moon wanes and harvest when it is on the rise. My sister Aurora could never sit still and pay attention. She chased after frogs. She trailed her prettiest dresses through the mud. She stole apples from our neighbor's orchard. She laughed so hard whenever her snappy little terrier, Onion, danced on his hind legs. We thought she'd never come to her senses. Aurora didn't listen to a word my mother said. We all knew she couldn't stay in one place any longer than moonlight could. Every time she ran through the garden, the warblers and sparrows would follow her. Bees would drink the sweat from her skin and never once sting. My mother laughed and said the honey in our hives would taste especially wild and sweet. At night, Aurora and I shared a room. Aurora slept without blankets or pillows, her pale hair streaming. Once or twice I had awoken to spy her curled up on the floor with her little dog. As she dreamed, white moths hovered above her, more drawn to her than they were of the moon or to the lantern my father kept on the porch, a beacon that signaled to anyone who might lose his way in the woods. Aurora was made out of laughter and moonlight, but I was nothing like that. Unlike my fearless sister, I was afraid of blackbirds and thunder. I couldn't get a good night's sleep unless I had 3 feather pillows under my head and 2 down quilts covering me. But I was the one who could sit in the garden for hours, unmoving, as I watched seedlings unfold. I was Green with my long dark hair and my endless patience, a weed who grew too tall. I was Green who never smiled at anyone, who preferred roses and asparagus to people. I was shy and ill at ease, uncomfortable with girls my own age, unwilling to talk to the boys at school. I wasn't good company. That was true. And people avoided me, but that was all right. I was too busy dreaming. My head was in the clouds even on the days we went into town. I didn't notice when people said hello to me. I was too busy thinking about the future to come. When my mother sent us to do her shopping, I was too timid to enter the market and sent my sister in my place. Aurora laughed how faint-hearted I was. "They won't bite you," she said. All the same, I kept my distance. I didn't mind if the storekeepers favored my sister. They gave her sweets, mints, and sugared almonds, which she would share evenly, 50-50. Aurora always remembered me. I was a reflection of what she was, a dark pond to mirror her moonlight. I hugged her, grateful that she didn't notice that I was less than she was. I ran home with her through the woods, and even though she was faster and more graceful than I would ever be, I didn't care who preferred my good-natured sister. I was Green, who was more comfortable in shadows. Green, who faded in the light of my sister. How could I not defer to her? The moon itself paled compared to her. Even the white moths would rather circle around her than the fly in the sky above. But I knew how to listen. I was the one who paid attention to the lessons my mother taught us. I learned that the roots of the foxglove were poisonous, that verbena could quiet headaches, that quince could be boiled into a sticky, delicious jam. In time, I knew more than my mother. Soon she began to turn to me for advice. When should we harvest? When should we sow? What would do best in the patch of sunlight beside the gate? I could whisper to the old twisted wisteria, and I would turn green at my urging. I could encourage the sweet peas to blossom with one word. Let Aurora smile at shopkeepers and wave to the boys in the schoolyard. My dreams were of night-blooming flowers, white on the outside, but green as my heart on the inside, green as my garden grew. I never complained when people didn't notice me. I was certain my time would come soon enough. There was dirt under my fingernails, and I was too shy to speak, but on my next birthday I would turn 16. Everything would change then. I would cast away my fears and step into my future. I would comb the tangles from my hair and wash the dirt away. When I walked through town, people would whisper, "Is that Green?" And I would say, "Yes, it's me. I've been here all along, but you've been too blind to see." I would have gone with my family on the day that it happened, but someone had to stay home and pull weeds. Someone had to coax the tomatoes to turning red and persuade the squash blossoms to bloom, and that person was me. We lived within sight of the city, which glowed silver at night and shone like gold in the afternoon. Every week we brought our vegetables across the river to sell to city people who couldn't get enough of our peas and lettuce and beans. Every week we crossed the bridge, and as we did, I held my breath. I could feel happiness then. I lived for those trips to the city. On the weeks we couldn't go, I pouted for hours. The city was my treasure. I loved everything about it. The shops on the avenues, the books in the stalls, the chocolates weighed and measured by vendors in the streets. No one in the city cared if your hair was long or tangled, or if there was dirt under your fingernails. No one cared if you whispered a greeting into the linden trees that circled the park where you set up your stand. You could be who you wanted to be in the city. You could be whoever you were deep inside. It was like a garden of people, the only place where I didn't feel alone in a crowd. Naturally, I wanted to go that day. It was my turn, but Aurora was still too young to stay by herself, and on this trip, my father was needed to carry the heavy crates, wooden boxes overflowing from the best harvest we had in years. As for my mother, she was the one who knew the customers, like with the white moths who were entranced by Aurora. People on the street couldn't resist my mother's sweet voice, her gentle hands, her long black hair, raven-colored like mine. It was clear she couldn't stay. It made sense for me to work in the garden, for me to be the one who stayed home. but I was angry all the same. When my family set out to leave, they called goodbye, but I didn't answer. My father whistled a tune, and although the sparrows returned his call, I did not. I wouldn't even look at him, even though he was so strong and so kind. I didn't say a word. "I'll bring you something special," Aurora promised. I knew she'd spend all her free time searching for a gift that would please me, a book or a bag of sweets, but I didn't blow her a kiss or wish her well. "There will be plenty of times for you to be the one to go," my mother told me. My mother, who was so beautiful, who knew the secrets of the growing season, who assured me that everyone had their own path, and that mine could be found in the garden. "Green," my mother said to me that day, moments before they left for the city, "we're leaving you behind because you're the one who's needed most of all." Now that she was standing next to me, I was surprised that I was almost as tall as my mother. I felt my love for her like the back of my throat, like a stone, heavy, making it impossible for me to speak. I was almost a woman myself, too old to admit I was wrong, or so I thought then. Too old to race after my mother when she turned to leave. I had too much pride to say goodbye. I kept my nose in the air and my back to them. I was green, moody and prideful and angry. I will forever remember that I turned away. And with that, I'll leave you there. Check out my next one where we find out what will happen. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment or a like and share. I love you guys. Have a great sleep. Bye.